displays. But we got our first glimpse of halftime shows to come in '93 when none other than Michael Jackson stunned fans with his 15-minute medley of his own smash hits. When he walked out on stage, he had to wait for the crowd's cheers to die down for about 2 minutes before even starting his first song. Diana Ross, Gloria Estefan, Phil Collins all starred in their own shows, as did Aerosmith, who performed alongside NSYNC. Things got a little bit out of hand in 2004 when Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson produced perhaps the most famous or infamous wardrobe malfunction in history. Shows from the likes of Prince, Lady Gaga and Beyoncé are considered by critics as the best. To give you an idea of the scale of things, Rihanna's 2023 halftime show included roughly 800 people. These ranged from backing dancers to stage crew to camera operatives broadcasting to millions around the world. The whole stage for that show was built in roughly 8 minutes and was broken down and cleared away in the same time. The acts perform for free nowadays, even though the experts reckon it costs around $13 million to put on Rihanna's show. Artists know they'll rocket up the charts in the following weeks. Rihanna's average sales improved by 140% in the months following her performance. The Super Bowl halftime show will be a fixture in pop culture for years to come. So the question is, who next?
Big rub inside our studio today. The heating is on. Come on, my man.
There's an icy chill outside, and I was dragged by my mate Stuart in Poole, Dorset this morning down to that waterfront by the Bick where we've covered Chris Billam-Smith fights before.
Fantastic place.
Yeah, down to the waterfront with Mr. Mark Redknapp and his father Harry, the legendary Lord Redknapp, for breakfast this morning, and I'm still warming up. Do you know when you walk into talkSPORT Towers?
What, have you been in the sea today?
No, I nearly did, but I left the budgie smugglers on, and I didn't go in the sea. It was 3 degrees, and they were all in the water together. I couldn't face the prospect, but I promised them the next time we go down there, and Frank Warren's got a card there on March the 8th, doesn't he, with Joe Joyce is on in the Bick. I promised them that I will go in the water every morning I'm down there. But I'm still cold from being beachside this morning, so I've got my beach bum, what's it, dry robes they're called.
Nice.
And there's an icy chill when you walk into this building. It's like a corridor of cold.
Listen,
isn't
Grandad, what are you up to now? Come on.
Listen, I'll take it off for the second section, but while I warm up.
Okay.
But what a week, eh?
It's been a great week.
Cold week weather-wise. Hot week for boxing.
News after news after news. Plenty to talk about. We're going to debrief you. We're going to go through the whole lot here on the show this evening, and you're more than welcome to come and get stuck on in. Shall we start with Turki Al-Sheikh? We'll start with him. We will get to Tyson Fury's retirement at some point in the show, but we'll start with Turki Al-Sheikh. He turned up on White and Jordan earlier on this week, and he, of course, joined the conversation where Simon Jordan and Frank Warren were having a little bit of discussion about Tyson Fury. But then he came in and he started talking about all the fights that he wanted to see throughout the course of 2025. And do you know something? I believe him. I think we're going to see quite a lot of these fights. Well,
he's very, very influential, isn't he? I mean, I think he's the man, we'll talk about it later, but he's the man who put up the money, who put up the bullion, if you like, to get Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. over the line. Let's just make that clear, first of all, because they were all fannying around before that. 55%, 45%. Come on, guys, get your act together. This guy is being exemplary for us in the sport right now and showing what can be done. His major picks, of course, Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, we'll come to that as well. It's a fight we all want to see. But talking about things like Daniel Dubois against Moses Itauma already, Terence Crawford and Canelo.
Well, do you want? Hang on, before you ruin his parade, do you want to hear from him?
Oh yeah, let's
hear from him. Why not? Why not? Let's hear from him. Here was Turki Al-Sheikh on White and Jordan, joining Frank Warren as well on Thursday this week.
If we have a time, I want to see in the future Toma against Usyk. If we have a time, if Usyk doesn't retire, and also Tyson against Joshua, of course, and also Crawford against Canelo.
Wow, those would be three great fights.
And also Inoue against Ball.
Against
That's
Nick
a
Ball.
great fight.
Wow, that's a great fight, Frank, isn't it?
That's a great fight, but I'm going to disappoint you because when Daniel Dubois fights Usyk, he will get his revenge. But young Moses and Daniel, what a great British fight that will be.
Yeah, will be the huge.
What I'm absolutely loving about Turki Al-Sheikh at the moment is that every time I hear him speak about boxing, about his plans for boxing, he speaks as a fan. He's speaking to the fans, and he's a very powerful fan. He's obviously got the money to be able to make certain things happen within the game, and I think this was absolutely needed. 2-3 years ago, I thought the sport was being run far too much as a business, and there were far too much talk going on. Now we're getting the action that we want to see. Hearing him this week, honestly, very rarely do I stay in my car on my drive while someone's speaking on the radio. And I stayed there, I listened to everything that he was saying, and I got out of the car with a massive smile on my face because I believe in the guy. I believe that he's going to make certain fights happen that I want to see.
Well, exactly. It wasn't to listen to Jim and Simon on boxing when Turki Al-Sheikh
take that back, boys. I do take that back. I do listen to them.
When Turki Al-Sheikh is coming on because he's so excited what he wants to tell you. More than just a fan, though, Ad, he's now thinking like a promoter. And he's getting the right advice from the promoters he's working closely with. Nick Ball and Neuer knew he's a very clever promoters fight.
But he's doing it in a way where he's thinking of the fan first. He's not thinking of himself. He's not thinking of the money or anything like that. He's thinking of what do the fans want to see. And that's the key thing. I think in the past, it's been promoter first, maybe fighter second, fans third. Now it feels like it's fans first.
Yeah, well, you say that, but I mean, Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney are set up with fights next, and they're going to fight. Again, I'm saying this in inverted commas for those listening. Semi-finals before they fight each other again.
Yeah, which I think's an error.
No, it's not an error.
They should have done the first.
It's promoter speak. It's building.
But the game needs to change.
And it's very much like, no, it doesn't. It's changed. It's fine. It's fine. The game doesn't need to change.
It does.
Sit back and be happy for a moment. Yeah?
I am being happy because Turki Al-Sheikh is changing the game. He's speaking in a way where he's
changed the game,
and he's changing it further. He needs to keep going, mate, because if it doesn't, you'll lose people's attention.
No, but remember, it's not a league like the UFC, and you make that mistake sometimes. This is a sport, not a league. He can't run it all like a league.
Yeah, he can. He's got enough dough, and if you give him enough time, he can absolutely break down the traditions of this sport that have been absolutely paralysing the sport. He can get rid of a lot of people that don't necessarily need to be here. And he can.
What do you mean by that? I'm
talking sanctioning bodies. I think that he can revolutionise this game and change it for the better going forward.
He is doing that, but you can't. It's a bit like at the moment. Where I agree with you on the fandom is. We'd love to see Moses Tauma beat Kubrat Pulev and win a WBA regular title earlier than Mike Tyson. I'd love to see Moses Tauma and Daniel Dubois because that is a fans fight as well. It's a little early for Moses at the moment.
But you're speaking traditional boxing there.
No, I'm not.
You are speaking traditional boxing. That's traditional way of thinking about boxing. What Turki Al-Sheikh said this week when he came on the radio is that we need to change our mindsets about wins and losses.
So careers will be very short and people
Why will they?
No, what he was saying was the zero, and I do agree with all of you on this, the zero that was created by Floyd Mayweather, that genre where the O is protected. Mayweather was a master at that, and it didn't always serve boxing well, and I do agree with that. I mean, I covered that entire period, and it was frustrating every time you tried to ask him about, but when are you fighting Manny Pacquiao? Till we literally press ganged him into it in the end, because we, as a group of journalists, we said, right, we're not going to go his narrative today. We're going to sit around a table and say to him, Manny Pacquiao, Manny Pacquiao, Manny Pacquiao, and when are you going to face Manny Pacquiao? In the end, they ran into each other in a blooming basketball game, and the fight got made, of all things. But
Floyd's attitude affected quite a lot of young fighters coming through and the way that they approch their careers. That needs to change.
And as he said on the interview, because I stopped my car and listened as well, wherever I was, he mentioned Muhammad Ali losing more than five times he lost. He said more than 5 times. But and I agree with all these principles. But I also agree with the principle, and I'm someone that wants Moses Tauma, for example, to get up there as soon as possible. And we'll hear from him later, and his manager, Francis Warren, because as Francis says, Francis reckons he beats 93% of the heavyweights in the world at the moment, the best heavyweights.
Right.
So there's probably a Bacoli, a Fury, an Usyk, a Wardley, maybe a Kabayel, a Parker, and a Zhang that he won't put him in with at the moment. But he put him in with Joshua. He said to me in the interview when I went to see Moses. But
that's picking and choosing your fights.
But what Francis was saying was, once he goes to that level, the gate shuts hard behind you.
Right. Yeah.
So. And I have this. I have the argument. I sit in your chair and agree with you on the argument that I have with Spencer Oliver very often, where Spencer's old school about needing the experience, and I think and I'm picking on Moses here. I'd like to see him get a tiny bit more experience before he's at the very top level the whole time. Because I don't think he's gone beyond 6 rounds at the moment.
But why? He's hot right now.
No, he is hot. Listen, I don't disagree with anything you're saying, other than if he gets catastrophically knocked out in one of his fights, he really does slide down the snake and not climb the ladder. And in the UFC, especially in the heavyweight division, you can lose one. And if you're that level, you can lose one, you can lose two, and then win one, and you're right back up challenging again.
Correct.
But it's a very narrow grouping in heavyweight MMA. It's not a very. Right now, we've got a very deep heavyweight division, very deep. I think it's 20 deep of veritable challengers who could become world champions.
Right.
You know, maybe up to 15, 16 rather than 20, I'd say.
Right.
Who are good enough. And those New Zealanders that are coming through, Taramona, right. Justice Hooney and all those guys.
But think about what's happened, right?
Yeah.
And this is where the real good change is. February 22nd, on that card, you're getting Daniel Dubois versus Joseph Parker. That fight makes sense in every aspect.
It's brilliant. I completely agree.
And it's the way that boxing should look. You've got guys that are getting good wins.
Yeah.
We're not having tickovers just because we've had a good win. We're now going back in with the next best guy. The next best guy is Joseph Parker.
So it should always be a mandatory in your view, then, not a voluntary?
No, not a man. But earned. Joseph Parker's earned it. He's gone through Wilder. He's gone through Zhang. He's next.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's sanctioning. You can navigate these sanctioning bodies over the years.
And if Dubois wins, he deserves a fight with Usyk for the undisputed.
Same with Parker.
I completely agree.
The winner
and
of
Parker
that.
as well. I completely agree with you.
That's how it should start to look.
I completely agree with you.
And the younger guys as well should all start fighting each other. Why not?
And the older guys will go away sooner as well.
Of course they will.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with any of the principles you're making, but I don't think it's... Where I was disagreeing initially was, I don't think it's just fan speak. I think it's promoter speak as well. A bit like, and you may disagree or not on this, I know we've got to go to break in a minute, but where Anthony Joshua is right now, put him in with Dillian White and Deontay Wilder in the next 6 months, and then if he wins both those fights, then give him a fight with Daniel Dubois if Daniel Dubois and he wants the rematch.
Well, he's got to,
or Tyson Fury.
Well, I think Tyson Fury makes sense next if Tyson Fury is going to box again. But definitely Daniel Dubois. Daniel Dubois is the belt holder. He's going in this direction right now, whereas Joshua's maybe coming this way. He has to win to earn the right to fight. There's got to be a meritocracy about it. Its profile's got to go out the window for a second. There's got to be a bit of meritocracy about it. Joshua's got to win a solid fight in order to get back into the mix.
I agree.
And if it is listen, I personally would like to see the Fury fight, and if it's not Fury, I personally would like to maybe push him towards Martin Piccoli. But
Joshua,
yeah, why not? Piccoli's a top challenger, isn't he?
I think Piccoli's a big favourite in that right now.
Maybe he
big
is,
favourite.
but we're talking about the best guys against the best guys. Let's have a go.
Yeah, I agree. And we're going to hear from Daniel Dubois. He's joining us later, isn't he?
Well, he's on next. Don't be going anywhere. You are listening to Fight Night on talkSPORT. It's fight night on talkSPORT. I'm Adam Catterall. Gareth Davies is alongside me. Before the show, myself and Gareth managed to catch up with the IBF heavyweight world champion Daniel Dynamite Dubois. Here's what he had to say about Turki Al-Sheikh's plans for the heavyweight division.
Nah, I didn't, to be honest.
Well, obviously, your focus is all in on Joseph Parker, so we'll speak about that in a minute. But he started speaking about the possibility of an Usyk rematch. He started speaking about the possibility of Moses Atoma in the future. What are your thoughts?
I think they're all good matchups. They're all good matchups for me. You know, I need to keep on the roll, keep winning, but they're all good matchups, all of them.
Just a few days ago, I thought you took it to Joseph Parker at the press conference. It really is a new you, and it's a man who's enjoying being at the top.
Yeah, I'm enjoying my youth. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. You know, you're not young forever, so I'm going to enjoy it as much as I can, really. I'm at the top of my game, and, you know, I worked hard to get here.
The thing is, I think people talk about you now, those of us that have been in the sport a long time, as the most dangerous heavyweight out there. You've got incredible confidence. You've shown a granite chin in your last few fights and an explosive power that very few people can match you with in the division. Is that a fair analysis of where you are right now?
Yeah, yeah, sounds good hearing someone speaking about it, but yeah, that's about it. You know, there's more to come, though. You know, the best is still to come, I think.
Daniel, since you teamed up with Don, as an observer and as a fan of the sport, it feels like there's been a significant change there, whether that be a mental thing, whether that be a physical thing, or techniques that he's giving you within the ring. I don't know what it is, but it's obvious for everybody when we're watching you fight. What things has he added to the Daniel Dubois toolkit in order to have got you to the level that you're at right now?
I think he's added to the work that's already been done to me, you know, that you know, my dad's done, that my trainers that I've had in the past have done. I think he's added. So, you know, that old school mentality and, you know, no-nonsense approach has really worked out. And, you know, he just puts me in there, gives me the drills, and I do them. So, you know, it's all good. You know, we're winning. So, yeah, I'm loving the journey so far.
A week ago, Adam was here in the studio and I had black tie on like you did, and I was haranguing you on the red carpet at the Ring Magazine Awards. It was an amazing occasion, Daniel, and I could see you enjoying it on the night. What did it mean to you to be included? I thought you had knockout of the year, frankly. I think, did Bruno Saras win? Who won it in the end?
Won it.
You did win it. He did win it.
I won it, yeah.
You did win it. There you go.
Don't be forgetting this, Gareth. Come on, son.
Just teasing you, young man. I remember you. I was there all night. Bruno Saras got a knockout as well, but he won the upset of the year.
That's right.
What did it mean to you, Daniel? Because we are seeing you growing week by week, month by month, fight by fight. What did it mean to you to get that award in front of your peers? Because it was an extraordinary occasion, a coming together of the great and the good and all the great boxers in the world right now. What did it mean to you to be up there at the Royal Naval College and get that award on the night?
It was great. You know, I think I loved it. The people loved it. You know, the vibe was good. And it's all there for the taking, really. It was just good to see everyone there, all the fighters that I might face in the future, and you know, and just all the greats in general. It was just a really good occasion.
I did grab you as you were leaving. Did you actually walk home? Because it's only about a half an hour walk. Or were you out all night? Or were you out all night?
No, mate, I don't know what you're thinking about.
Listen, man, you're doing brilliantly. I do hope you get time to enjoy yourself as well, you know.
Yeah, no, for sure, I will. After this camp, I will, for sure.
What challenges does Joseph Parker bring you on February 22nd, Daniel?
Listen, he's a good challenge. He's fought everyone. He's been a world champion. But I'm just on a roll now, and I'm ready to get him out of my way and, you know, smash him to pieces and do whatever it takes to win. I think I'm going to be too much, too strong, too hungry, and too fast. And, you know, I just want to deal with his challenges, I think, as I should.
Is the exciting thing now for you as a fighter that we've spent a long period of time in boxing, it feels like, talking about fights that fans want to see, but now since Turki Al-Sheikh's come into the game, the fans that are talking about certain fights are now getting to realise those fights in front of their eyes. Now, for you, obviously, you've had a phenomenal year last year with the Hrgovic and Anthony Joshua victories. You've got Joseph Parker now in front of you. And therefore, when you talk about what could happen off the back of a Joseph Parker win, it becomes realistic to get back in the ring straight away off the back of that with Alexander Usyk and challenge for undisputed status. I mean, that would be remarkable to do that in 2025.
Yeah, it's great. What a turnaround I've had the last year, really. But yeah, that would be the icing on the cake to go in there and take all the belts off of him, get through Parker, and that's what's next. I think that's what's next.
Daniel, obviously, a lot of us were really surprised on Monday, that 17-second video from someone you've sparred with and worked around, and Frank Warren doesn't want to put you in with. Tyson Fury retired. As a fighter, a young fighter, do you believe he's retired, or do you think he'll come back and face Joshua?
I think he'll come back for sure. I think he's always been doing this throughout his whole career, the mind games and everything, so... I think he'll be back. He's two-faced sometimes, so, he plays different characters. He'll be back for sure. What do you guys think?
I think he'll be back in the summer because people start saying 50, he'll go, no. Well, he's asked for $500 million, hasn't he? We talked about it earlier in the show. I think 60, 70, 80, I think it's a negotiating tactic. I think he'll be back.
I think he needs boxing as well.
And
he needs
we're all fans of the sport, Daniel. It would be a travesty if those two guys over the last decade, while you were a teenager, came through and changed the sport. I think it'd be a travesty if they don't fight. Do you?
Get him in the ring. I want to see them fight now, I bashed up Joshua, so he's got to fight Fury. I want to see, what they've got left between them two, and maybe I'll fight the winner.
Oh, lovely. Listen, Daniel, if that fingers crossed what you've said actually comes off. If it doesn't come off, who do you want to see Anthony Joshua in with if it isn't Tyson Fury?
If he doesn't, or if he does.
No, if that fight doesn't materialise, Anthony Joshua's going to need to fight somebody, isn't he? So who in the heavyweight division?
Would it be Dillian? Would it be Deontay? Who do you think?
I think Deontay, maybe, or Dylan. Nah, maybe Deontay. I'd like to see him. Or maybe run it back with me myself. Yeah.
No, but if he got a win first, it would be you next, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Let's throw him in with Deontay or someone.
Nice.
I don't know. Yeah.
Listen, Daniel.
All right.
Mate, thank you so much for your time.
Are you not entertained, Daniel? Are you not entertained?
That's right. Are you not entertained?
Yeah, love it. Absolutely love it.
Daniel Dubois. I'll tell you what, that was a little earlier on, just before the show. We caught up with Daniel Dubois.
U-turn, isn't he? We were having a little discussion in our production meeting, and this is going to come into the conversation about Tyson Fury later on and characters in the game of boxing, and maybe when they're no longer around, how will the landscape look? Well, it opens the door for other people to maybe showcase their personalities, and I think that, as I was kind of alluding to in that conversation there, since he's teamed up with Don Charles, since he's started to put significant wins together, he started to believe in himself, the chest is going out a little bit more, the confidence is starting to be there, and okay, you've seen it in his performance, which we'd all expect as a boxer, but we're starting to see him on the microphone as well, and I think it's the way that you speak to him. If you speak to him a certain way, there's a smile about the things that he's saying, there's a personality starting to come out, and he's starting to become a bit of an entertaining character, isn't he? Yeah, well, I think when he beat Trevor Bryan to win the WBA, a version of the WBA world title, people were calling him a world champion, and he wasn't. He won in a leisure centre with a dripping ceiling with Don King and five people watching him. And I think the victories over Filip Hrgovic, the performance against Anthony Joshua, particularly that one in front of 90,000 people where he carried the event, and he smiled and grinned his way through the whole fight week. And I was guilty, and maybe that's why Don Charles had a pop at me here in the studio a few months back, but I was guilty of saying he might feel the pressure. He doesn't feel any pressure at all. He is loving this moment in his life. Yeah. And like I say, as a character in his mid to late 20s now. He's got the world at his feet. And this is a year, Ed, that we might see the end of Alexander Usyk, Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, Zhilei Zhang, who tells me to go on forever anyway. Who else? And Dillian White as well. Thank you, Ed, our producer, chipping in. So enthusiastic tonight. He's in my ear the whole time. I wouldn't have forgotten Dillian and Derek. It's okay. But there's nearly a phalanx of 8 or 9 heavyweights there, late 30s, early 40s. So someone has to take over. And someone's got into Daniel's head and said, make it yours right now. Make it your time. And he could be the most dominant heavyweight in the world in 2 years' time if he beats everybody. It's Alma. If he fights Usyk again, if he beats Parker, if he goes in with Bakole, if he has a big all-African fight in the Congo or in the June the 4th, Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier Stadium in the Republic of Congo, he's got the world at his feet, frankly.
Yeah, and it's starting to feel like that as well. Really good conversation there with Daniel Dubois. Looking forward to his fight on February 27th. Listen, he's got a tough task ahead of him in Joseph Parker. I think Joseph Parker's on a real good tear at the moment. If anybody can nullify what Daniel Dubois does, it is Joseph Parker. But there's something special about what Daniel Dubois is doing right now, and it just feels like that momentum, as he said, is with him.
We're going to have really fascinating conversations in the build-up to that fight, because I think one of the fascinating things about Joseph Parker going into that is when Zhilei Zhang was 129 kilos and Joseph Parker was 112 or 114 when he fought him, and he struggled with the size and weight. He was knocked down in the 3rd and the 6th rounds against Zhilei Zhang. Yeah. I think it was the 3rd and the 6th, or 3rd and the 8th, but came back. I had that fight a draw, by the way, but he just pipped that fight when Zhang ran out of steam. He's gone to 127 kilos thinking he was going to... This is Joseph, thinking he was going to fight Zhang because that was organised for a second fight. He's stripped back down to 121 kilos right now, 10,000 calories a day, a strength and conditioning programme with George Lockhart, who's worked with Gennady Golovkin, lots of MMA fighters, Tyson Fury, Billy Joe Saunders, Josh Taylor and others. And they worked from his legs up, his back, his glutes, his shoulders, his arms. And he's a 6'4" man. Joseph put on 15 kilos, and we've both seen him big now, and he did it effortlessly. You've seen him sprinting. We've seen those videos of him sprinting. Yep. On his rest day now, he runs 90 minutes. On his rest days, he runs 90 minutes on the running machine in the gym. He's a specimen right now, and they haven't lost any of his speed or mobility. And he's got more power. So all of those things, they're going to strip him back down to... Daniel's 114 kilos, more or less. They'll strip Joe back to under 120, maybe 117 optimum for this fight. He's a big dude now. It's fascinating, this fight. It really is.
It's a great fight. It's a fantastic fight. That's on the Beterbiev Bivol 2 undercard as chief support for the IBF Heavyweight Championship. We've got more on that, no doubt, over the next few weeks. We mentioned Turki El-Sheikh. He's been on the shows this week talking about fights that he's made. He's put the cash up for Ben Eubank. We'll talk about it next.
Erling Haaland seems pleased with the fact he's going to play out his entire career at the Etihad.
Super proud and happy, and I look forward to staying there for a long time.
No wonder. He's on £500,000 a week, rising to 750 grand, including image rights, on that 9.5-year deal. Troy Deeney told us the fact that Real Madrid signed Mbappe will have made it easier for Haaland to make up his mind about his long-term future.
I think he saw his window with them probably closed and think, where does he fit into?
Tunes are on tonight, aren't they, eh? It's Fight Night on talkSPORT. There's a party going on behind the glass. The production team are all in, as is Gareth Davies. Welcome to it. It is Fight Night on talkSPORT. I'm Adam Catterall. Gareth Davies is alongside me. Lots been going on the station throughout the course of the week. You will have seen, or heard, should I say, Turki El-Sheikh joining White and Jordan on Thursday, talking about fights that he dreams of making this year, fights that he's already made. One of those fights that he has already made, that he has put the cash up for. Back end of April, we're just waiting for confirmation on the date. But back end of April, it will be Ben Eubank Jr.
Well, I can't reveal it 100%, but I believe it's
26th.
April the 26th.
It's the working day. We'll call it the working day.
And I believe it's Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
We'll call it the working stadium as well.
The working stadium, yeah. Well, as Eddie Hearn has said, and I agree with him, obviously, well done, Turkey, getting the fight over the line, because, frankly, they were, as I said earlier, they were fannying around over egos again, 55%, 45%. Eubank saying he was the A-side, Conor Benn saying he was the A-side. I'm just glad we've got the fight. Well done, Turkey, El-Sheikh. And the good thing is, it's a good thing but a bad thing. It's a bad thing that's turned good. The controversy around the 2 clomiphene tests, and it was going to be 20,000 in October 2022 at the O2 Arena. It's now going to be 60,000 or 80,000 if it's Wembley, but I believe it'll be Tottenham. And the good thing is, it's at middleweight with the rehydration clause. We'll go into that, but for Conor Benn, who is a much smaller man, Chris Eubank Jr. has been stopped since then, and he's 2.5 years older, and that edges it more towards Ben, in my view, Adam.
I'm massively against rehydration clauses. Massively against them. At the end of the day, we have weight divisions for a reason. I think rehydration clauses make things more dangerous than they necessarily need to be.
Don't disagree with you.
If you are making a fight at 160, you should not be disabling a fighter and saying, well, you can't rehydrate beyond this weight the day after. At the end of the day, we want them to rehydrate as much as they possibly can. If they can make the contracted weight of 160 on the day of the weigh-in, so be it. It's your choice. You are making the choice to go up in weight. Don't give me this that you're the smaller guy, 147 going up to 160. We need a little bit of something coming back the other way. Tough. You've made the decision to go to 160. Crack on. These are the rules at 160. I completely am against rehydration clauses because I think it brings danger towards Chris Eubank Jr.
I agree with you. It penalises him, which is why I say I'm edging towards Conor Benn in the first 6 rounds of this fight. I think he'll be very dangerous. He'll be big and strong at 160. He probably will weigh 160, 164 on the day. But Chris Eubank Jr., remember how emaciated he was at 157 when he made that ghost weight cut?
Yep.
He looked ill. He looked like a man who'd been in prison and hadn't eaten for 10 days or 20 days. I do worry about him for that reason. He is 35 plus now, and I think there are dangers for him, and I think if it is a horrific, vicious contest that goes 12 rounds, I would worry about his health.
The spin is always going to be, well, this is his championship weight, he fights at 160. Yeah, but he fights at 160 without a rehydration clause, first and foremost.
Yeah,
and
so
two,
it's 175 in the ring.
Yeah, and two, if you actually look at Chris Eubank Jr.'s career, his best work's been at 168, with all due respect. Yes, he makes 160 because maybe opportunities are there for him. This is an opportunity. I fully understand why people are doing this, because they want to make a few quid, right? And we're dining out on nostalgia from the 1990s. I understand all of those things. I'll get to the drug test thing in a minute. But for me, if you're going to agree a weight, of which they have done at 160, then you dance to the rules of 160. You don't then stick clauses on top of it to incapacitate a certain fighter going in there. You've made the decision to go up. Deal with the cards that are being dealt.
Yeah, look, it's a blood lineage fight, and blood is the operative word here, because it's the greatest feud in British boxing history, Ben and Eubank, and this is chapter 3 of that. There are going to be dangers because there is a lot of dislike. I mean, I don't want to use the word hate because I don't think they deep down hate each other, but there's a lot of dislike for each other and a lot of animosity there. And I think it's going to be a vicious fight. I think Ben's going to tear at Eubank. I think he only knows one way to fight. I don't think he's going to come out there and jab, jab, jab. Eubank is a guy that rests in the ring at times. You know?
Yeah, he does take his foot off the gas.
He does. And I think the first few rounds are going to show us whether Ben is not big enough to operate against Eubank.
Yeah.
We'll see that early on in the fight.
Yeah.
Because we may see punches bouncing off Eubank. But secondarily, if they do go to war together, which I think they might, we're going to see a lot of blood spilt in that ring. And it wouldn't surprise me if they sign a two-fight deal as well.
I think they have, haven't they? I think they've agreed.
Two-fight. Yeah, well, so there's probably there's probably an option for the loser to take the rematch clause, depending on what happens. These fights have a habit of being controversial, don't they?
Yeah.
And they could be the making of each other as well in this rivalry. But I do agree with you. I think the rehydration clause does really penalise Eubank Jr. And we will hear from senior Christopher Livingston. Eubank Senior will have words to say about this in the build-up. And I'm hearing both fathers will be very involved in it as well.
We're also going to find out, as well as everything that you've just said, we're going to find out what level Conor Ben's at. Because with all due respect to him, out of the two fighters, Chris Eubank Jr. has been at the higher level. Okay,
no question.
He's not hit the highest of levels, but he's been at the higher level, challenging for world championships and falling short against George Groves. Conor's not been at that level. He's definitely not been at that level at 160 either. So we're going to find out what the situation is and whether he has the talent in order to navigate the problem that is presented in front of him. Now, for whatever you say about Chris Eubank Jr. and whether you think he's any good or whatever, listen, the lad has fought at the top level. He's got some wins under there. Okay, maybe we can have a look at some of those wins and think, well, it's only because this guy was at this stage of his career or this stage of his career, and when he's come up against...
You're talking Arthur Abraham and De Gale, James De Gale, who was very weather-worn when he met him.
And they are part of the conversation, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm not denying that they're not. Yeah. But then, when he has come up against the top lads, he's fallen short. George Groves, for example, in the World Boxing...
in a terrific fight that we've covered for talkSPORT in Manchester, if you recall.
Absolutely fantastic, right? But then on top of what I've just said regarding the rehydration clause, you then have still, I don't care what anybody says, there is still the cloud of everything that has gone on over the last 2 years. Yes, has it made it bigger with the casual audience? Of course it has. Like you've just said, we've gone from 20,000 people at the O2 to 60-odd thousand inside a football stadium. Everybody's getting more dough, and I've no doubt that the interest into the mainstream has absolutely
it will cross over to the casual fan. There's no question about it.
Because we're selling nostalgia, and now we've actually got genuine animosity between the two lads that are in there, rather than them just dining out on the dad's names. But that cloud, for me, still doesn't make it... It still doesn't sit right with me that we don't have clarification on what the situation is with Conor Ben. What licence is he fighting under? Does he have a British Boxing Board of Control licence for this fight?
Well, he's not suspended by them anymore,
But does he have their licence?
I don't know.
Because the narrative has always been... I
imagine he will have.
But the narrative has always been from Eddie Hearn, if we're going to make this fight, then I want Conor Ben to apply for his licence and I want him to be fighting under the British Boxing Board of Control licence. Has that happened? Is that what he's going to be fighting under?
I think he will be. I think that's what the plan is. Talking to Eddie Hearn, that's what the plan is. Talking to Robert Smith, as I have in the last couple of weeks, they haven't had the application yet, but they're waiting to hear from them over it.
Okay. Will that application come then, do you think, when they absolutely confirm the date? Because we're being told that the fight is signed by Turki Al-Sheikh this week. So once we get a confirmation of April 26th and once we get a confirmation of Spurs, if that's where it's going to be going, that's when the application will come in.
I think the application will come in just before. I think there'll be a press conference the week after next. I don't know that, but I'm hearing vague noises that there'll be a big press conference.
How does it sit with you that we still don't have clarification on that situation?
It's so tiresome. Let's spend the next hour talking about it. Yeah, because we've spent about 10 hours talking about it already.
Rightfully so.
We never got. No. I'm not denigrating what you're saying. I agree with you. We never got to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Because it's obfuscated in legalese in subjudice matters that people can't discuss one way or the other. Eddie Hearn sworn to silence, Conor Benn sworn to silence, VADA aren't saying anything at the moment, the independent panel aren't saying anything, and the Boxing Board of Control. There's 5 parties, at least 5 parties involved, and no one, apart from Conor when he was at his most kind of youthfully exuberant and arrogant, was screaming blue murder, that everyone had got it wrong, and he's maintained that line, hasn't he? And he's calmed down about it, but we've never got to the bottom of it, and that is, you know, sitting here now on air, we never did get to the bottom of it. We went round and round and round the houses. I think they found some loopholes. I'm not accusing him here of being a drugs cheat, but what I'm saying is they found loopholes in the case, and things that have come up have later... I've got to be careful what I do say here, because I know maybe too much to be able to say it myself on air, but it's a very complicated case. Where I sit with you...
So what's wrong with transparency then for the audience?
That's where I sit with you. Someone needs to come out, maybe even before the Ben Eubank fight, and say, look, this is what happened.
Yeah.
This is what was accountable. This is what the resolutions were. This is what was decided behind the scenes. This is how boxing's going to move forward. You know? And then, if you're listening, Turkey Al Sheikh, if you can give them a shake and get them to do that, we'd really appreciate it.
No, absolutely. Because I think from an audience point of view, that then gives us transparency. You don't have to agree with whatever you're being told, but at least you have transparency. You've been given the information, and you can make your own mind.
Well, it's like
up.
a cold case at the moment that needs resurfacing, isn't it? It's been put as a cold case, and you know, God forbid anyone gets sensitive about what we're talking about right now, because the fight is on. They're going to fight, but for the betterment of the sport,
of course,
and the betterment of things going forward.
And both guys,
when these situations are obscured under legalese, let's have it all out in the open.
I completely agree. Listen, I've no doubt there'll be more information on the confirmation of those dates and venues that we've just said that they are working towards in the not too distant future. There is a bit of action going on. I say action. Is it action? I don't know if it is. Is Misfits? It's not really action, is it?
Bit of fun.
It is a little bit of fun that has captured the imagination. Darren Till is taking up. What's the fella that he's... I don't even know who he's fighting.
Anthony Taylor is a former MMA fighter and wrestler, Adam. Come on.
Right. The reason why I'm bringing it
You're
up...
so biased to Darren Till. You're a fanboy.
No, he's a pal. So I'm highlighting...
Tom Aspinall going to beat John Jones or not?
Yeah.
We've got a break.
We do have a break. Stick with us. We're probably going to talk very, very briefly about what's going on in the Darren Till thingy. The reason why I'm bringing it up is because you may have seen a bit of noise that a former Chelsea and England footballer is going to be stepping into this world, taking on KSI. And that footballer is going to be on this show, we think, in the next half an hour or so. All right? So stick with us here on talkSPORT. 25 years of talkSPORT. I tell you what, since we've been in control of this programme since, 2016, 2017, flying around the world, we've covered some fights, haven't we?
Yeah, I'm 24 years with talkSPORT.
All
makes me feel old.
Well, together we've done all 3 Wilder Furies.
Yeah.
We've done a ton of Anthony Joshuas.
Yeah.
It's been pretty good, this boxing journey.
We've done east west. We've done the centre where we are. We've gone west for we've gone west for New York and Las Vegas.
Yeah.
We've gone east
Texas as well. We've done there.
Texas as well, and recently Texas.
Yeah.
Not done Canada, I don't think.
No.
I've been there.
California.
I've come in from Better Be Evan, Callum Smith on air to you for that one. I remember you in here.
Yeah.
California.
Yeah.
And then I think we've gone Riyadh. Have we done a Dubai or not for talkSPORT? I don't think we have. We've only done Riyadh, I think.
And Jeddah.
Yeah, well, that's Riyadh. That's
Riyadh, Jeddah,
Saudi. Sorry, yeah.
We
only
need Japan.
done one country?
Send us to Japan.
I've done Japan.
That's where we need
I've
to go.
done Japan UFC twice. Amazing.
But we need it here. We need it on talkSPORT.
We would be good. Neuer, Inouye, and Nick Ball.
There you go. Let's get that thing going. Let's get that thing going indeed. Now, currently in Manchester.
Go on.
It is what it is.
Go on, love. Go on, love.
Well, Darren Till is getting himself back into the world of boxing. It was supposed to be Darren Till, Tommy Fury tonight, wasn't it? But it hasn't materialised. So it's Darren Till against Anthony Taylor in boxing. All right. And Till has been on the station this week talking away and talking about a possibility of a matchup with Conor McGregor.
Just there to have some fun and make some money. Like I've had a good career in the UFC and stuff like that, but I've had it hard as well. I just want to make some money and have a good time. You know, I'm 32 now, so I just want to go with the good times.
And Darren, another former big UFC star that has sort of been rumoured to be entering the boxing world soon. There's been a lot of tweets, a lot of social media interaction, is none other than Conor McGregor. And I just wanted to ask you, in terms of the future, is a name like Conor McGregor someone that you would ever see yourself getting into the ring with?
Yeah, obviously that's the money talk. That's the money fight, innit? No matter how you slice it or dice it with Conor, no matter what happens outside of the ring or the cage with Conor, he's still that name, isn't he? So yeah, obviously you'd be a fool to turn something down like that. But do I believe it? No. Until I see him standing in the ring there, I'm probably not going to buy into all of that, to be honest with you. He's retired 10 times. Then he's meant to be fighting Logan now, KSI. He's meant to be fighting Chandler for 2 years. So none of that's come to fruition. So I go off what people do, not what they say. And what he's doing is not a lot of fighting. Not in a disrespectful way. He's just not fighting, is he? He's a tough cookie, Conor. I know Dustin sort of finished him, but it wasn't a complete knockout. He's got a chin on him, Conor, and these days he's looking a lot bigger. So I think, I do believe I could get the finish, but Conor's a tough cookie, and as I say, for everything he's achieved, I think people overlook that and forget about it. He's a tough cookie. He's a tough competitor. You'd be a fool to underestimate someone like Conor McGregor. I think I'm bigger and better. I think I'd beat Conor.
Darren Till. Speaking a little earlier on this week, obviously tonight he makes a long-awaited return to the ring. It is a ring. It's not a cage this evening. He's in the world of boxing against a fellow by the name of Anthony Taylor on a Misfits show. As he just said there, he's here for a bit of fun and making himself a few quid. And if he can get himself a fight with a Tommy Fury eventually, or a Jake Paul or something like that, I'm sure that is objective ticked off. I can't see him having a fight with Conor McGregor. Just the size difference.
It's not big enough.
No.
Till's not a big enough name. Conor McGregor will fight someone. I can imagine, even though Jake Paul is much bigger physically than Conor McGregor, that's the kind of level of person that Jake Paul's looking at right now.
Here's a bit of news for you, and we might get him on the show later on. I'm sure everybody's heard of this KSI fella, right? So he's been doing a bit in the world of boxing. Obviously, he makes music. He does FIFA watch-alongs and all that type of stuff. There's KSI. Well, he's dancing in the world of this Misfits. And he could be fighting Wayne Bridge. Yeah, the Wayne Bridge. Left back, Chelsea, England. Wayne Bridge stepping into the world of boxing to take on KSI. We'll tell you a little bit more about this a little bit later on the show, because Wayne Bridge might be with us. We'll try and get hold of him and get him on the Dog and Bone a little bit later on in the programme. Next, though, we're going to talk about some proper boxing. Or maybe a fella that doesn't want to do proper boxing anymore, and that is, of course, Tyson Fury, who retired this week. We'll get stuck into that conversation next.
Who would have thought a sporting event's halftime show could have a bigger impact than the game itself? Well, the Super Bowl halftime show does exactly that. In 2024, Usher brought in an audience of 180 million worldwide, the biggest ever in the event's history. But how did singing and dancing get to be the centerpiece of America's biggest sporting event? The first edition of the Super Bowl was held in 1967 when the Green Bay Packers beat the Kansas City Chiefs in Los Angeles. Because of the sheer size of the event, organisers wanted to put on entertainment at halftime for the fans in the stadium. It was a display of marching bands, dancers and pure USA patriotism, and that was the theme that followed for years. In the 1980s, the Walt Disney Company got involved and we started seeing some interesting and questionable displays. But we got our first glimpse of halftime shows to come in '93 when none other than Michael Jackson stunned fans with his 15-minute medley of his own smash hits. When he walked out on stage, he had to wait for the crowd's cheers to die down for about 2 minutes before even starting his first song. Diana Ross, Gloria Estefan, Phil Collins all starred in their own shows, as did Aerosmith, who performed alongside NSYNC. Things got a little bit out of hand in 2004 when Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson produced perhaps the most famous or infamous wardrobe malfunction in history. Shows from the likes of Prince, Lady Gaga and Beyoncé are considered by critics as the best. To give you an idea of the scale of things, Rihanna's 2023 halftime show included roughly 800 people. These ranged from backing dancers to stage crew to camera operatives broadcasting to millions around the world. The whole stage for that show was built in roughly 8 minutes and was broken down and cleared away in the same time. The acts perform for free nowadays, even though the experts reckon it costs around $13 million to put on Rihanna's show. Artists know they'll rocket up the charts in the following weeks. Rihanna's average sales improved by 140% in the months following her performance. The Super Bowl halftime show will be a fixture in pop culture for years to come. So the question is, who next?
Go out this evening, no problem, don't worry. I'm not going to hold you to it. The podcast will be available for you in the next 24 to 48 hours, where we will give you everything that happens on the programme. So go and get yourself stuck on in. Now, the big news this week as well.
Everybody was talking about it. In fact, luckily enough, we had the very first interview that afternoon with Frank Warren live on H&J when Frank Warren arrived at Outernet, where we were having the press conference for the last crescendo.
Yeah,
exactly. With all the Better Be Even Bivol is called, by the way, the last crescendo, which is why I just said that. But it was. I was trying to... First thing I thought was, right, how many times has he done this? And secondarily, what does he mean by Dick Turpin? Was a highwayman. Dick Turpin wore a mask, rather.
Yeah. He's insinuating that there's been some type of robbery.
Well, I think... As I wandered through central London over to Outernet, and it was about a 15 or 20 minute walk, I found myself mulling it over and thinking about what... Obviously, we were going to discuss it on air because we were on air quite a lot in the afternoon for talkSPORT. I was writing a column for a national newspaper on it as well. And I was thinking, you know, people want to know straight away when you've been around someone that you know quite well and you're used to the scenario. And my feeling was perception is reality. And in his mind, he's retired right now. It will change, is my view. I don't think it was a ruse. I think it was... him maybe watching events from afar and thinking, I'm going to throw some cats amongst the pigeons here today and just see what people make of it. I also, when I got to Outernet, spoke to a couple of members of his team and said, were you aware of this? And they were categorically, they'd spoken to him in the morning and he hadn't indicated he was going to retire. And when we got Frank Warren on air, to finish my piece, when we got Frank Warren on air, Frank is very loyal to his fighters, and he said what he should have said, which was, if Tyson wants to retire now, he's had an amazing career, he's been brilliant for me, we should all enjoy what he's done and congratulate him. I'm not going to put any pressure on him. No, I haven't spoken to him. But I think Tyson Fury decided in the moment he was going to give us a little message. I think he'll be back late in the summer.
Yeah. I can't disagree with anything that you've just said there. I think we've seen this on many occasions before. The most recent was in the aftermath of the Dillian Whyte victory. I'm off. I'm out of there. And 8 months later, he's fighting Derek Chisora. And having spoken to him in the aftermath of that as to what was the situation with that, he said, listen, in the moment, I genuinely believed it. I then realised that I needed to box, and that's why I'm back. And I think we're in a situation which is very different for Tyson Fury right now, right? So when he did this last time and the time before and the time before that, he's been the king of the castle. He's been the main man.
Undefeated.
He's undefeated. All the things that he has said, I'm sure that he genuinely believed that no man born of his mother can beat him and that he is the best heavyweight of the generation. There's a realisation now where maybe some of those things aren't necessarily true. And he's got to come to terms with those things. I think it's quite raw at the moment that we're just off the back of the second
3.5 weeks
Alexander Usyk defeat. He's still got to process that defeat. He's got to process a few things that maybe he believed in the past that now maybe aren't necessarily true, and then maybe he's got to find the new fire as to why he wants to step back into the ring.
But he has still got a massive bargaining chip, which is he against Anthony Joshua is the biggest commercial fight ever in British boxing history, still.
Commercially, yeah.
No, it's still the biggest. And it's still a veritable challenge, bragging rights, the challenge of each other.
But does he want it?
Well, I mean... No, what I'm saying is, if he's sitting there from a position like, if you really need me, come and get me then, yeah? And it won't be $500 million. I remember when I did the interview with him and he wanted $500 million to come back. Yeah, he won't get $500 million. I think Turkey Al Sheikh said on talkSPORT that's ridiculous money. The fight makes $200 million. It sells out Wembley, no question, Adam. It sells out Wembley. Yeah, it's a big British fight. So he's still got a bargaining chip in that. Frank Warren, Turkey Al Sheikh, Anthony Joshua, and Eddie Hearn, and British sport wants that fight. Of course. So he can still be lured back in the sense that he's the king of the castle in that sense. Listen. But I don't disagree with you. He may be grieving the losses. He may be grieving, and he's maybe not someone who can speak about it.
Yeah, and I agree with what you've just said. There is absolutely no doubt. Whatever he's the reason as to why he's done it, the fact is his position at the Anthony Joshua negotiation table has just got a little bit stronger, because if he's out, you need to get him in somehow, and that is obviously maybe showing him a few pound notes. Well, we're going to continue this conversation in a minute, but I just want to bring in a conversation that Simon Jordan and Frank Warren had this week, because they were talking about this, and obviously Tyson hung up the gloves, Frank Warren came on the show, and then maybe a conversation of contrary opinions took place between Simon and Frank. This is how it sounded.
I think the Tyson Fury that fought Deontay Wilder was a revelation. I think the Tyson Fury that went into a series of fights with Dillian Whyte and Derek Chisora and Francis Ngannou was not. And I think as a result of that, he wasn't...
What was wrong with his performance against Dillian Whyte?
Nothing, because the levels of fighter that he had to fight against, which is not his fault, ultimately...
Well, it was his mandatory challenge.
No, that's what I said, Frank.
It was his mandatory challenge.
That's what I said.
That's on record that he should have got much more money than he was getting. So obviously, at the time, because he was he was box office, he'd done more. He should get more purses. His purse should be bigger. It's a liberty and things like that.
Frank, what's that got to do with the point that we're making? That's what about.
Frank, let me jump in. Go on. The point is the narrative what suits at the time, and the fact of the matter is to say that his performance against Dillian Whyte was. Grouping
that's not the point I made, Frank.
He was brilliant.
That's not the point I made. That's not the point I made. What you guys do and choose to do is you choose to listen to things that people don't say, and they make arguments about things that people haven't said. What I said was there was a series of fights which culminated in him being in a fight with Alexander Usyk where he wasn't at the level.
Frank, we can go round and round in circles. We won't do that today.
He wasn't at the level.
Yeah, he wasn't at the level to beat Alexander Usyk. And I think that the post-Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury was operating at the ultimate zenith of his game, would have perhaps beaten Usyk.
So you're saying. So what did you think?
The Fury that got put on his arse by Ngannou wasn't the best version of him, was it?
You're saying in that fight. What are you saying then? That he was crap in the fight?
No, I didn't say that either. Those are your words.
Those two. They love a little bit of niggle, don't they? Simon Jordan and Frank Warren. Speaking this week on Tyson Fury, their thoughts on Tyson Fury, and obviously in the aftermath of Tyson Fury calling time on his career. What did you make of that?
Well, they were both talking about different things, weren't they, there, I think frankly, and it didn't make a lot of sense in the end, but they weren't getting on. Look, Tyson Fury has been beaten twice by Alexander Usyk, whether he's weather-worn or not, because of the Deontay Wilder fights. He was beaten by the better man on 2 occasions. He didn't agree with it on both occasions. He won one of the judges' decisions in the first one because it was a split decision. I think he was fairly and squarely beaten in both fights. Narrowly, but fairly and squarely beaten. I think Tyson Fury, we can talk about legacy here. He's not what he was, I think, but he also has come up against Alexander Usyk, who is so clever as a fighter. They both made adjustments in the second fight, and the adjustments that Usyk made allowed him to win the fight. Tyson Fury is a modern great, in my view. He's comparable in entertainment terms to Muhammad Ali. He's entertained the sport. He's sung after events. He's spectacular entrances. He's created mystique. He did last Monday with a 17-second enigmatic put out. That's what everybody was writing about. That's what everybody was talking about last Monday, not the 20 fighters that turned up for the last Crescendo press conference. He is a fascinating, divisive, fantastic character for the sport. Without him, when he goes, we'll feel the hiatus, we'll feel the gap. Same as Alexander Usyk in a different way. Same as Anthony Joshua in another way. But I think when Simon refers to he and Anthony Joshua as also-rans, it's a put-down. They're not also-rans. That when Larry Holmes,
in comparison to
when
Alexander
Holmes
Usyk,
and
isn't he?
Norton and Foreman and Frazier, you never called Joe Frazier an also-ran because he lost to George Foreman. You talk about the great fights he had. You don't talk about him as an also-ran. It's a put-down. It's a nasty put-down for a guy that's grieving a defeat. Same as Anthony Joshua. I'm not going to sit in the studio here and go, you're an also-ran, you're an also-ran. It's the biggest commercial fight to be made in the UK. It's bigger than Ben and Eubank. It's still a massive contest to get Joshua and Fury in the ring. For 10 years, they've both been behemoths of British sport.
Listen, Simon's completely entitled to his opinion.
Yeah, of course he is.
On the scenario.
Of course he is.
And he is judging Alexander Usyk as the number one, the pinnacle, and therefore the guys that he's referring to there, as in Tyson Fury, the number twos, the number threes, the number fours. Okay, maybe the choice of language I personally wouldn't use. But
No, also ran is.
But he's entitled to that opinion, isn't he? Because they are not the number one. They're not the best of the generation.
It's the semantics I'm picking on here. You know, they lost to Alexander Usyk is the number one of the era. I think Tyson Fury is probably number two of the era.
But is that
there's
conclusive?
More of the era. It's not done yet, is it? The era. That's the point.
And that's the key thing where we're at, because Alexander Usyk, I think, has concluded that he is the number one guy. He's beaten Anthony Joshua twice, he's beaten Tyson Fury twice, and he's beaten Daniel Dubois, the next generation that's coming through, right? So he's beaten those guys. He is absolutely, without any shadow of a doubt, the guy.
If he beats Dubois second time, or he beats Parker, who's beaten Dubois, I think there is no question.
There still isn't a question for me right now.
No, if Dubois beat him in a rematch, because remember Dubois...
He's got to get there first. He's got to get there, hasn't he? He's got to beat Parker first.
Yeah, right now he is a modern great. There's
Absolutely.
no question about it. I agree with you.
Now, the number two slot is still open for debate. Now, eye test, we might go that Tyson Fury is that guy.
Yeah.
But if you want to use numbers to back up your argument, you could probably go down the route of Anthony Joshua, or you could bring in maybe...
That's why we need to see them fight. And I agree with you. That is the reason.
There you go. There you go. And fingers crossed we do get to see that fight at some point later on this year. We will see, won't we? We will see. We're going to continue talking heavyweights because Dave Allen is going to be on the show in a moment or two. Don't be going anywhere. This is Fight Night on talkSPORT. I'm Adam Catterall. Gareth Davies is alongside me. Let's keep the guests rolling on in. Delighted to welcome to the show the White Rhino himself, Mr. Dave Allen. Dave, how are you, mate? You good?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Very well indeed, mate. Thank you very much for giving up a bit of time to come and join us. Obviously, lots to talk about. It feels like 2025 now is set up for an exciting time for you. But before we even get into all that, I want to talk about maybe the past 12, 18 months and the journey back to where you're currently at, mate. Because with all due respect, I know that you'd said, listen, that's it. I'm going to maybe go and do something else. Then we see you get back in there and start training with the guys again, finding the love for it again. Talk to me about that journey and the mentality shift of wanting to get back in and do your thing.
Yeah, I've been wrote off loads of times. I remember when I boxed, I lost for the Commonwealth title in 2017. Then got stopped by Tony Yoka. Then the Price fight. I've been written off loads of times. So after the Clark fight, I was in the same position again. He's finished. He's no good. He's this and that. And I had a few months where I just sat at home. I had 2 kids. I just had my second kid, and I thought, you know what? New Year came around, 2024, and I thought, let's get back in the gym, get busy this year, and a big fight will pop up. And I had 2 4-rounders. I tried selling tickets. I didn't do too well, and it cost me a few quid to box myself. But I just believed in myself that I would get a chance. And this time, when I got the chance, I would go and commit to staying with Jamie Moore and Nigel Travis Foot in a full-time camp, and you know, I could finally show what I'm all about. And in Riyadh, I finally, you know, I did something close to that.
How have the lads helped you there, Jamie and Nigel? I know them well, and I know what they're like in the gym and what they've done for other fighters. But what things have they added to you, mate?
Well, I'm a pretty old dog now. Do you know what I mean? Like,
get out, man.
I guess I'm an old. Like, I know Gareth's here and that. I'm a lot younger, but I am an old dog for boxing. But no, you know, with them two, it's like you're not going to teach me too much new boxing stuff. I've been at it more than half my life. So them two just understand me. I'm a very complex character. I'm hard work. I need kidding and cajoling along, a little pat on the back. You know, I need probably lying to sometimes, telling me how great I am sometimes, even when I'm not. So them guys just understand me, and I've worked with some of the best trainers in the world. But them two, it's more of a personal thing than a boxing thing. And they get the best out of me.
Dave, let's go over the last month. First of all, looking back, I don't know if you watched the fight with Johnny Fisher back. Do you feel like you won the fight?
Yeah, well, I don't want to speak negatively on Johnny. He got the decision, and that can't be changed now. But I watched the fight back. I think I won the fight. Yeah, I think if I'm going to be completely honest, I won the fight. I think that was pretty clear to see. But the judges, 2 of them saw it differently, so I can't really argue that. And it's been and gone. So everyone said, "Why are you kicking up a fuss?" And what's the point? What's the gain out of it? There's been worse decisions than that. I know that, but yeah, I thought I won the answer to your question. Yeah.
So you won, in your mind, you won the fight. There was a lot of controversy around it. A lot of people felt you did win the fight. I got embroiled in it as well, of course. You know the thing with Johnny Fisher's dad, but we'll come to that in a minute. But when you have a fight like that and it's controversial, the second one makes money. Like, you guys could sell out as a main event now, maybe at the O2 or the Copper Bosch, as they call it. So what you achieved in there, you should be getting your payday for now. Are you chasing that?
I'm not chasing anything. Like, I'm still only 32. Still only 32. The Fisher rematch is the biggest fight out there for me.
Correct.
And you know, at a level, it's the most winnable fight, really. You know, if I don't fight Fisher, who are they going to put me in with? You know, I'm not a commodity, really. They're going to chuck me in with someone. I don't know. I don't want to give any names away, but they're going to put me in with someone that might be a little bit too much for me, or perceived to be too much for me. So yeah, the Fisher fight is the common sense pick.
Are you talking about it at the moment with anyone? Are you talking about that fight happening soon?
I've not had any correspondence with Ed since the day after. Eddie and Team Fisher was big on the rematch initially. It has quieted down since. But Well, I just, he's a young kid. The first fight was incredibly hard for him. And if Team Fisher want the rematch, I'm open to it. But I'm not going to be making all sorts of noise and putting pressure on a young kid. That's just a ridiculously hard fight for the first time in his life.
That's incredibly respectful of you, mate. And listen, this is a short career, isn't it? And there's people, and you've got to get what's right for yourself first and foremost. You've got to look after you and yours. For me, the logical thing is for you two to run that fight back. I think it would be, obviously, it's fantastic for you. We've just been speaking about the financial aspect of it, but it is a fight that I think the majority of people that watched it thought that maybe you nicked it off the back of the knockdown that came in the 4th round.
And it was a thriller.
Yes, it was a great fight.
Absolute thriller.
It was a great fight, and I also think that it's great for Johnny as well. I genuinely do, because I think you absolutely asked him questions that maybe he hasn't been asked before. I think he answered some questions. I mean, I know that you've got an awful amount of respect for him because of the cojones that he was showing in there when you did have him buzzed and all over the place. He stayed in there right until the end. He showed an amazing amount of heart. I'm sure he learned a lot from you in that process. And as Gareth said, I think it makes an awful lot of sense. So listen, I think it's commendable for you to say I'm not going to put pressure on that, but speaking, if I was your advisor, which I'm not, but if I was, I'd be saying, listen, man, bang the drum, because that is absolutely the fight that should be happening for you next.
Yeah, I believe that's the fight that my team want to make happen. I'm the boxer, you know. For the first time, I stopped being nosy, sticking my nose in all sorts of stuff, and just being the boxer. I'm just a boxer now. Like, I'll just leave them to it. But I told everyone what happened in the first fight, and in the second fight, it will be one-sided and over double quick time. I've been in the gym 12 weeks for the last 5.5 years. You know, I've continued in the gym over Christmas. I'm back over with Jamie and Nice on Monday, and at the level of the contest in December and the level where Johnny Fisher is right now, I'm on a completely other level to that.
So what you're saying, I mean, I know you're friends as well as rivals, because obviously, you just went through a 10-round war together. It was phenomenal to watch. You know what happened? I thought the judging was a disgrace. I stand by that. I think you won the fight easily. Clearly, not easily, clearly, in my view, and we were there and watched it live. Whatever anyone wants to disagree with opinion-wise, that's fine. I understand Johnny's family, his father was very annoyed about my commentary, but he's his father, and I get that as well. I've got a lot of time for the Fishers like you have. They're a massively brilliant addition to our sport in lots of different ways. But are you not negating what you deserve by saying, I'm not going hard after this rematch, and I'm going to earn 400 grand from it, and I'm going to buy 2 houses, and I'm going to start the restaurant that I've been chasing you to start for a long time as the biggest chef in England?
No, you know what? To me, genuinely, I'm not going to push for it, because to me, me and Johnny Fisher are mates. Yeah, we aren't friends, we're mates. Yeah, but it's more important for me. I'm not going to push this young kid to a fight. The fight we had the other week was brutal.
It was.
I gave him a real good hiding for a few of the rounds, and he's only a young kid. So, you give me all the money in the world, I'm not going to force this kid into a position where he has to have a fight he doesn't want. I've been involved in hard fights. I've been involved in hard fights back to back. I've even been involved in hard fights that I didn't want because there was a few quid on the line. So, I'm not going to push him for it. I'm a fighter. I will fight anybody. There's money wherever. I'll box anybody. There's no concern to me who I box. The Fisher fight, like I said, amazing, brilliant. A lot of money in it, and I firmly believe I'll stop him. But I'm not going to back him into a corner, and there's loads of options for me.
Yeah, well, listening to you speak, firstly, unbelievable, Dave, listening to you speak like that. I think a lot more people could take example from it. You've just been speaking about levels. You're 32 now. You've been around the block a couple of times. You know what the crack is in this game. What is it that you want to achieve out of it? What do you want out of the game?
Most of all, I'd like to win the British heavyweight title. You know, 3 of the last 4 generations of my family have been professional boxers. My great-granddad, my dad. We never won a British title. And my granddad, who passed away recently, all he wanted was to win a British title. That's all he wanted from me and my dad, really. And I'm more than capable of doing it. I think I look at the British title picture at the minute. Hopefully, most of the time has moved on. That's the honest truth. The rest of them I can beat, definitely. So
you're talking the Adelays and all of those guys, yeah?
I firmly believe, apart from the top class heavyweights, I can beat all of them if I'm consistently in the gym, and I really do believe that, yeah.
I don't think that's as a wild thing, mate. I genuinely think that that is... If you can't do the Fisher thing next, for whatever reason, you fighting for a British title, I think makes an awful amount of sense.
Yeah, if Wardley vacates, I'll box anybody for the British title within reason. Obviously, there's a few, like I've just said, it's Alma. You know what I mean? You don't want to get beat up by a 19, 20-year-old, really. It's not good for my street.
How phenomenal. Speak to us about that kid, because we're all speaking about him at the moment. What is it about him? Tell us.
He's got like an aura about him. I was over in Riyadh, yeah. I'm 32. He's 20. I think he was 19.
He was 19. He was 20. He was 20 on the 28th of December, yeah.
You see me go, I shuffle around everywhere quite quiet, really. Like, my head's down, I'm shuffling around. Mate, you'd think he owned the place. It's scary, really. And on top of that, obviously, he's a super talent. He's heavy-handed, he's fast, he's got loads of ability. But the way he carries himself, you'd think he was already a world champion, and that's why I believe he will go on to be a world champion. He just carries himself with an aura of, like, I've been lucky to spend time with Prince Nassim Hamed lately. Like, he carries himself in a similar way, I would say. I think he's a bit special, yeah.
Wow. What did you make of Tyson Fury's announcement this week regarding retirement, Dave?
Well, I don't know, I can't second guess Tyson, but I would like him to retire. I think him and Usyk are the two best of this generation, from sparring him, from watching it as a fan. And if Tyson was to get beat by anyone other than Usyk, it'd knock me a bit, to be honest. I wouldn't like it. And I would like Usyk to stop sooner rather than later, because going into his late 30s as a natural cruiserweight, he's going to get beat by Dubois or Parker or Bacoli at some point.
Or a
He'll always
Thelma.
go down to the best of all time, but if he carries on, he's going to get beat by somebody, and that's all people remember him by. So hopefully, Tyson and Usyk get out soon and remember as two of the best there's ever been.
If we don't get AJ versus Fury, who do you want to see AJ in with if it's not Tyson?
It's difficult. There's loads of good heavyweights about. Martin Bacoli, you know, he wants avoiding as well. I wouldn't box him. I wouldn't box him either. He's on the list of people I wouldn't box. Yeah, Joshua deserves the big... He's still one of the biggest names in the sport, so Joshua Fury's massive. But I just like Fury to get out now. I want Tyson to get out, you know, and same with Usyk. I just think they're going to keep going and going and going. The last 12 rounds of each other take so much out of them.
Yeah.
And they deserve to remember as two of the best of our time, of all time. So Joshua, maybe the Dubois rematch. I think that's one that makes sense.
Dillian White, Deontay Wilder.
Probably not really. No, it doesn't really interest me, to be honest. I'd rather see Chisora the White 3.
Fair enough, mate. Listen, Dave, you've been a diamond as ever. And listen, good luck, because I hope that you get the opportunity to fight for that British title, mate. I think you've earned it, mate.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Top man. There you go. Dave Allen joining us there. The British heavyweight scene is in a really good place, because he's mentioned a couple of guys there. I mean, Fabio Wardley's star's going that way. I would love Fabio Wardley to vacate that title and head towards a Kubrat Pulev. I think that would be great. Moses Atama's on the rise as well. I'm been vocal saying that I put Ituma in with Hrgovic straight away. And if that title becomes vacant, Dave Allen fighting for a British title. Come on, man. Who's not going to enjoy that?
Yeah, and at some point down the line, you
have
looks
the rematch.
Like you have the rematch. But it's very interesting the way he sees it. I mean,
brilliant.
Yeah, it is brilliant in one way, but in another way, I mean, I think what Dave is doing there as a big dog, he's big dogging here. He's saying, look, I know I'm better than him, so you better not put him in with me next, because I don't want to wreck his career. That is effectively what he said there.
Fair. Stick with us. You are listening to Fight Night on talkSPORT.
Erling Haaland seems pleased with the fact he's going to play out his entire career at the Etihad.
Super proud and happy, and I look forward to staying there for a long time.
No wonder. He's on £500,000 a week, rising to 750 grand, including image rights, on that 9.5-year deal. Troy Deeney told us the fact that Real Madrid signed Mbappe will have made it easier for Haaland to make up his mind about his long-term future.
I think he saw his window with their...
I tell you what, the music package that we are using on the show tonight makes me feel like I'm in an adult film from the 1970s. I need to grow myself a Magnum PI tash. You know what I mean? Flares, yeah. Flares, hairy chest, the full hit, mate. The full hit. Little bit of a cheeky afro. I could have grown one back in the day.
There's nothing cheeky about an afro.
No, back in the day.
You look good in an afro.
Back in the day,
have we got an afro wig somewhere you can put on tonight?
Back in the day,
that would entertain me.
That's what the Catterall haircut used to be like, mate.
What, straight up the hair, did it? Straight up and then a bit of curl?
Everything, mate. I
can't remember.
Leo Sayer.
We're reminiscing about 25 years of talkSPORT. How long have you had the hair or not?
When we started working together, the dump. What's he see on? Anyway, you are listening to Fight Night on talkSPORT. Gareth and Davies keeping our production team on their toes this evening with a little bit of fruitiness.
Bit of hairiness.
Absolutely. Part of the Turkey Al-Sheikh conversation this week, and I know we brought him up a couple of times, but there's so much to take out of that conversation, was that he kind of gave the calendar away for this year, didn't he?
He was so excited, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was great.
It's amazing.
We've got the Feb 22nd card coming up, which is absolutely astronomical. Yeah. Cannot wait for it. But he then started mentioning various other little bits and bats where they're going to do something in Vegas, they're going to do something, obviously, the UK, all this Riyadh season stuff, and then the start of the Riyadh season. But he also mentioned that he's looking for another 5v5. Now, I know that you're on the inside here.
2 of them.
Well, come on then, give me the info, mate. What are they planning?
No, because they're talking about Matchroom and Eddie Hearn going up against Oscar De La Hoya, because there's this massive rivalry there. But obviously, when Frank Warren, they were going to do it, I think in February originally, right? Another 5v5. Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren, Matchroom and Queensberry, but because Queensberry are going to DAZN early in April. Yeah, they're going to
save it for them.
Okay. So let me throw a couple of other things before we do the 5v5. Our dream 5v5, yeah, is that if Zhilei Zhang, I got this out of Zhilei Zhang this week, if Zhilei Zhang beats Ajit Kabayel on February the 22nd, they are planning Bird's Nest Beijing and a fight in Shanghai as well. They're looking at that, much as they're looking to place Bakoli in Africa at some point. They're still vague, those plans.
Yeah.
But I know they're featuring in the chats, the talks behind the scenes. I think it's absolutely brilliant.
Rightly so. You take your local fighters to local homes.
Africa's missing at the moment. Africa's missing. Big fights in Africa.
From experiences in the world of MMA, I mean, you've been across this for God knows how many years. It's politically difficult maybe sometimes to do a bit of business in Africa.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that those types of things are being navigated right now, and fingers crossed that we do get a situation where Martin Bakoli, Anthony Joshua get the opportunity.
But China...
Oh, China's doable.
The big Chinaman, come on. I mean, Zhilei Zhang in China.
Or even Macau.
Or Macau as well. I've done Macau with Manny Pacquiao and Chris Algieri, I think it was years ago. Was it? I think it was Manny Pacquiao and Algieri. I think it might not have been, but I definitely did Macau with Manny Pacquiao, because Bob Arum had a time when he was taking, Manny home, if you like, towards the Philippines to fight Southeast Asia. But, I mean, it's a candy store at the moment. So come on then, 5v5s.
What from a Frank Warren versus Matchroom point of view?
Number 2, because obviously Frank absolutely eviscerated Eddie the first time, who took it brilliantly, showed he's got a good chin. So if we go down their stable...
With all due respect to Mr. Hearn, right, and I've said this on the radio on a couple of occasions, the Queensberry stable is strong. It's incredibly strong. If you look in the heavyweight division, Frank owns the heavyweight division. You go down, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a couple of divisions there where Eddie is well connected and he could probably get a victory. I.e., he's connected to Jai Opataya, all right? Someone like that. And there's a couple of others that being connected to Bam Rodriguez, I mean, that could be something very, very special. But the majority of the divisions where there's a bit of glamour, I think Frank Warren's kind of got it tied up.
I think Frank, at last count and talking to Frank Warren, I think he's got 12 of the top 16 heavyweights in the world, something like that.
He's got heavyweight locked down.
In some form or other. Well, who's Eddie got in heavyweight terms? That's the problem. He's got Johnny Fisher at the moment.
Yeah.
Frank's not going to sign Dave. I don't know. Are they saving Dave Allen and Johnny Fisher for the 5v5? Is Dave Allen a free agent? Could he go with Frank Warren?
He's got David Adelaide.
He's got David Adelaide.
So Adelaide versus Fisher could be something for
That's
a 5v5.
a good fight.
Yes,
That's a good fight.
It's a very good fight. It could be something for a 5v5.
Yeah, okay, so there's one.
Listen, I'm just trying to think of others.
I know I am as well, and my mind's going blank. So if we do an Opatire...
I don't think he's got a light
Opatire is heading towards a fight.
He hasn't got a cruiser that can compete.
No, Opatire is going to fight Zurdo Ramirez next for the undisputed cruiserweight title.
So there you go. You've got
and
Opatire,
then step up to heavyweight.
So there's your Matchroom versus Golden Boy.
Yeah.
That
works.
That could work on
that works
on that aspect.
Bam Rodriguez is with Eddie.
He's connected to Eddie, yeah.
So who do we put him in with? Do we put him in against a Nick Ball?
It's a big weight jump, that.
Where is he at the moment? Superfly or Bantam?
So now you're asking to go Superfly to Super.
No, it is a little bit too big. It is a little bit too big. It's going to be interesting.
What middleweights have the Matchroom got?
I'll
tell you what.
They've got.
I'll tell you what. Here you go. Right? If Conor Benn beats Chris Eubank Jr. in versus Hamza Shiraz.
No, you can't say that. That is too huge a size discrepancy.
He's a middleweight.
6'5" versus 5'8".
He's a middleweight. You want to play by middleweight rules? These are the middleweight rules.
No, they're the only... Let's go back 5 sections on this show, which is not radio anymore, it's TV, I'd like to remind you. You can watch us live tonight, debating. We've never had so many blooming arguments, you know? You're making me swear tonight, even, because of the hair. I don't think Conor Benn and Hamza Shiraz... I draw the line there somehow.
Listen, I draw the line. I was being facetious with the suggestion.
But Hamza Shiraz... And
I don't think he's got a middle. Has he got a middleweight? Could Hamza Shiraz go up and fight Pacheco at 168?
Pacheco and Hamza Shiraz. Pacheco and Hamza Shiraz.
Maybe.
Brilliant fight. Pacheco is one of those guys. Diego Pacheco, by the way, the super middleweight. Was he 14-0 or something?
He's very good.
He's very, very good. Eddie was enthusing about him. He's fighting soon, I think.
Yeah, I think he's out in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, enthusing about him. There's one. I wish we had all the names in front of us. I haven't got all those names in front of us right now. Let me think.
There's a couple of guys where. I mean, I saw Eddie Hearn this week. I don't know how this would sit, actually, because Eddie Hearn walked past on the red carpet last week where you were, and he walked past Anthony Yard, and he mentioned Craig Richards.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, Anthony Yard isn't connected at this moment to Queensberry. Could it be a reconciliation there? Can they reconcile that relationship and Anthony Yard get back in? Because I genuinely believe that Anthony Yard is missing out on massive opportunities. I don't know the ins and outs of the conversations of what has gone on there with Queensberry, but I want him to be reconciled and I want him to be back in this mix because he's missing out on some big ones.
Well, when we've talked through, I think we were together on air the other day when we had Joshua Boazzi on, and he disappointed me because he'd shaved that beard off. We were talking to him when he was in San Francisco, saying it looked like a homeless person. His beard was so big. Those two, Joshua Boazzi and Anthony Yard, are definitely on a collision course this year.
Yeah.
And obviously, Boazzi's now with Boxer, and Yard's with Boxer.
Yeah.
I think. Is that right? Yeah, I think he is, isn't he?
Well,
Yard's a free agent.
He's a free agent.
Supposedly. I don't want to be litigious here, actually. But that's a fight we've got to see this year. If Better Biev and Bivol go to a third contest. But so there's a Bivol with Hearn. So there's a light heavyweight with Hearn. And Better Biev is with Top Rank, isn't he?
I've got one for you.
Go on.
I've got one. Representing Queensberry.
Yeah.
Anthony Kakachi.
Yeah.
Representing Matchroom, Lee Wood.
Nice. That's a good matchup. And Lee has been very inactive recently, injuries and so on, doesn't
It means Kakachi has to go up and maybe renege his belt and doing it super feather. But yeah, that's what I'd do. Kakachi versus Lee Wood.
Darren Till's in a boxing match in...
Look at you.
It's Darren Till I'm watching in the ring.
You want him representing Queensbury or Matchroom? Which one do you want him in with?
I don't know.
Anyway.
Let's this play out first. But it doesn't... It's not an easy fix, a 5v5 at the moment. They're kind of disjointed stables. Obviously, Eddie Hearn's got Boots Ennis and Richardson Richards.
Richardson Hitchens.
Oh, it's like two surnames. I never get that right. I have a Freudian problem with that. He's got a great stable. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
Katie Taylor against.
Oh, hang on, yeah.
Katie Taylor against. Who do you put her in against?
Well, the only one I want to see is Serrano.
Yeah, me too.
Anyway, you're listening to Fight Night on talkSPORT. Get stuck into the comment section of the show where you can obviously throw your own 5v5 together. Let us know about some of the ones that we've just spitballed there just off the top of our heads. Get stuck into it. When you hear that music, you know that it's Super Bowl time. The NFL playoffs are well and truly underway. Currently going are the Chiefs against the Titans. It's on our screen at the moment. I think they just hit half-time. The Chiefs were 6-3 up in their playoff game. You got the Bills versus the Ravens tomorrow, which is the game of the weekend. But this is all gearing towards the Super Bowl, and you can be there. All you've got to do is text USA to 83338. The prize includes tickets to the Super Bowl, flights from London, accommodation, and a whopping £5,000. What an unbelievable prize that is. The greatest show on earth, the Super Bowl. Definitely recommend it. Get stuck in. Text will cost you £2 plus your standard network rate. Text the word USA to 83338 to enter. You can enter by post as well.
Entries cost £2 plus your standard network charges. Enter by 20th of January 2025 at 11 p.m. Alternatively, you can enter by post. Send your name, email address and contact details, including telephone number, to Super Bowl Competition, P.O. Box 3190, Colchester, CO2 8GP. Postal entries must be received by 23rd of January by 5 p.m. 18 plus only from England, Scotland or Wales. You must have bill payers' permission. This is a news broadcasting network competition. Full terms and conditions at talkSPORT.com.
You're listening to Fight Night on talkSPORT. I'm Adam Catterall. Gareth Davies is alongside us. A young man coming to join us right now has been in the studio on a couple of occasions. He had an interesting 2024, did Archie Sharp, and very kindly has come to join us on the show. How are you, mate? You good?
Very well, thanks, Adam. How are you? How are you, Gareth? You okay?
Very good, thank you, Archie. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you both too.
Mate, great to see you. Like I said there in the intro, 2024 was an interesting year for you. Obviously, you were in our studio. We were talking about the comeback. You get in there, the first fight back after a long layoff, mate. Blooming heck, you're disco dancing in the first round. You navigate the rest of the fight and get that sorted. And then, of course, in the middle of last year, you have a proper slobber knock, a proper ding-dong, and end up coming out on the wrong side of that. We haven't seen you in the ring since, mate. So what's been going on since that period of time, and what's the plans for 25?
It's been a crazy 24, like you say. Looking forward to being back out on the 1st of March. Obviously now at a new weight, gone up to lightweight 135. I think I overstayed the 130 division a little bit too long, and unfortunately, life and plans it all happens how you don't really expect it. You know, like there's been a little while now I wanted to move up to 135, and I kept kind of ignoring it. And then obviously, like you say, I think it was in May when I had that shaky first one back with Frank, and then I had a bit of a shaky first round. And then obviously the Gardner fight happened, and unfortunately, like you say, it never went my way. And now we move on.
In the Gardner fight, the second one, obviously, which you come out losing on points. Do you? I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I want to get your opinion on it. Do you look back at that and think to yourself that maybe an active Archie Sharp of 2-3 years ago makes better decisions in a moment where there's a bit of claret knocking about, and therefore you can navigate the fight a little bit easier?
Oh, for sure, 100%. I totally agree. It was a fight that kind of I was, like I say, it was for myself looking at the Shakur Stevensons, the Oscar Valdez, the Navarretes, and then a Ryan Garner fight coming to the table. It was kind of, at the time, I thought obviously I was above that, but I was in a position where I had to take that fight. And to be honest with you, lads, I stayed at the 130 because I was hanging on for that WBO call, that number one, just to do that, you know. And unfortunately, it never planned out. But everything happens for a reason. It was a good fight. Unfortunately, like I say, I was on the wrong end of the. I was at the wrong end of the stick. It didn't go my way. I enjoyed being there, being at the O2 co-main event. I thought it was a great atmosphere, and I just have to learn from this, you know, and just listen to my gut instinct and know that I've got to go to 135. I'm a massive 130. I've been making it since I was 19 years old. I'm 29 now, so it's about time I move up. And to be honest with you, I feel so much better for it.
I'm sure Gareth will back me up with what I'm about to say. Sometimes, Archie, you need a bump in the road in order to obviously recalibrate the brain and then maybe reignite the fire and get you back on track a little bit. And it feels like, from speaking to you right now, that obviously the inactivity period, getting back in the ring where you were hopefully trying to get back to where you were at 130 a couple of years previous. Maybe your body had outgrown that situation. The bump has come along now. You've learned in the moment. And now it's a case of, okay, getting back on the horse and pushing forward in 2025. Plus, with all due respect, you've moved to a division, mate, which is blooming exciting at 135, isn't it?
Oh, it's such a great division. I'm looking forward to it. I'm really excited. Like you said, the fire's in the belly now. I stand on it. I generally believe I've got the ability to beat Ryan Gardner. I've got the ability to beat all of these fighters in the division. I do stand on that. It's just not always about the ability, you know. I've got to the weight, but it was performing on the weight, and it just goes to show that I didn't do that. So now we move forward, and I've got to put on a masterclass performance on March the 1st, which I believe I'll do. This is the perfect opponent for that. Very stylistically, him and Garner are pretty. Liam Dillon, who I'm fighting, are pretty much the same, and I'm just going to demonstrate what I should have done back in July, but at the new weight, and make a big statement in the lightweight division, and go on and become a world champion at lightweight now.
How many times can I expect to see you fight then this year?
God willing, mate, I'll be out at least 3 times this year. You know, I want to get out in March the 1st, and then spring, put a big statement on this Liam Dillon, and then push on to some big fights. There's a massive Frank's got obviously some big fights at lightweight as well. There's rumours around there's more 5v5.
There he is.
There we go.
That's what I wanted you to say,
That's
bro.
what we were waiting for. The key to the show. Here we go.
Make your pitch. Get in there. You want to be on the 5v5s. That's what you want to do.
100%. You know, you got Cordina getting messed around. You got Cordina messed around with the whole Shakur Stevenson situation. Exactly the same what happened to me. So you got Joe Cordina at lightweight, who isn't exactly active himself at the minute.
Mate, we were talking about making fights 2 minutes ago. You just made one for us. Archie Sharp, Joe Cordina. There you go. Stick it on. There you go. We're happy with that, aren't we, Archie?
That's the one, mate. What's that one?
You against Joe Cordina.
Out in Riyadh in April.
That's brilliant, mate. I think it's a great fight. It's a great fight. Me and Joe shared rings early on in our career, and to go and have a big fight, especially, do you know what I mean, on a 5v5, be unbelievable.
Mate, there you go. We made a fight. And
that makes a cracking fight. Me and Joe are always in great fights. Like even with my last fight, I know it didn't go the way it should have, but it was still a cracking fight for fans to watch. You know, there was blood, there was entertainment, there was all sorts going on. And same with Joe Cordina. If he ain't knocking someone out, he's been stopped. You know what I mean? So it makes a great fight.
Mate, there you go. Gareth's very pally with Turkey Al Sheikh. He'll get on the phone to him straight after the show, and we'll get that fight made for you. What you got?
Boom, boom. Yeah,
there you go.
Absolutely.
Sorted. All done. Archie, listen, all the best, mate. Good luck with the camp coming up to March the 1st. I expect that activity level this year made at 135, and fingers crossed we can get you on a 5v5 against Joe Cordina.
It was really good to speak to you both, and I appreciate you both. God bless you all. Thank you.
And
Cheers.
you,
Good night, brother.
And you. Do stick with us. You are listening to Fight Night on talkSPORT. Plenty more to come. We're going to hear from Billy Dibb in the next hour of the show. Don't go anywhere.
thought a sporting event's halftime show could have a bigger impact than the game itself. Well, the Super Bowl halftime show does exactly that. In 2024, Usher brought in an audience of 180 million worldwide, the biggest ever in the event's history. But how did singing and dancing get to be the centerpiece of America's biggest sporting event? The first edition of the Super Bowl was held in 1967 when the Green Bay Packers beat the Kansas City Chiefs in Los Angeles. Because of the sheer size of the event, organisers wanted to put on entertainment at halftime for the fans in the stadium. It was a display of marching bands, dancers and pure USA patriotism, and that was the theme that followed for years. In the 1980s, the Walt Disney Company got involved and we started seeing some interesting and questionable displays. But we got our first glimpse of halftime shows to come in '93 when none other than Michael Jackson stunned fans with his 15-minute medley of his own smash hits. When he walked out on stage, he had to wait for the crowd's cheers to die down for about 2 minutes before even starting his first song. Diana Ross, Gloria Estefan, Phil Collins all starred in their own shows, as did Aerosmith, who performed alongside NSYNC. Things got a little bit out of hand in 2004 when Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson produced perhaps the most famous or infamous wardrobe malfunction in history. Shows from the likes of Prince, Lady Gaga and Beyoncé are considered by critics as the best. To give you an idea of the scale of things, Rihanna's 2023 halftime show included roughly 800 people. These ranged from backing dancers to stage crew to camera operatives broadcasting to millions around the world. The whole stage for that show was built in roughly 8 minutes and was broken down and cleared away in the same time. The acts perform for free nowadays, even though the experts reckon it costs around $13 million to put on Rihanna's show. Artists know they'll rocket up the charts in the following weeks. Rihanna's average sales improved by 140% in the months following her performance. The Super Bowl halftime show will be a fixture in pop culture for years to come. So the question is, who next?
Light heavyweight king Artur Beterbiev this week at a media event at Tottenham Court Road ahead of the rematch with Dimitri Bivol. That's taking place on Feb 22nd. Artur wasn't very happy with you, Gareth. Take a look at this.
You've got a little bit of anger towards me today, no? You're angry towards me?
Yes, even.
Why?
Because you talk about me something bad things.
No, what I said was, when I spoke to Dimitri Bivol earlier, your opponent on February the 22nd, it was a very close fight. We both had you winning 7-5 in the first fight. We were there. I said, Bivol, you need to win it back because we want to have a trilogy of fights between you. Because you both are so good. My feeling as a sports fan and observer is you two are so brilliant. I want to see 36 rounds of it. That's the only reason I said it.
Okay, we'll see.
Yeah, but you'll prove me wrong. If you go in there and you beat him again, you prove me wrong.
Yeah, we'll see. I will try. I will do my best.
Listen, Artur, what have you done differently for this training camp to what you've done in the first camp? Because obviously it was a great fight and a very high tempo. Have you changed anything up going into this one? Do you need to do anything differently?
Of course, we need. We already changed some things, like even condition training sessions. We changed there many things. We change it. Like I hope edit to this 12.
Yeah,
it's gonna be.
Obviously, Artur Beterbiev catching up with yourself and Spence this week. What were your main takeaways from the whole media day? Obviously, because that is
he was playing there, by the way, and he was great for me. He was very talkative. I think they're all being paid brilliantly at the moment. They're really selling the show. The Last Crescendo is an extraordinary card, one of the best we've ever seen in history. Daniel Dubois was on great form, giving it to Joseph Parker, who was very open. Dimitri Bivol spoke loads. Everyone was there, and it was a celebration because we'd had the Ring Magazine Awards with all these people around, plus Terence Crawford and Saul Canelo Alvarez and Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney and Bill Haney and Teo Lopez and Roberto Duran. When these guys came there for the business end of the week, it was... everyone is celebrating how many big names are on the cards with them. Joshua Buatsi is loving the fact that he's fighting Callum Smith, and I think they're opening the card. I mean... everyone knows that they are history in the making here, and everybody knows they've got big things to gain from victory. It was a brilliant thing. It's great to go to Outernet every time. We're getting used to it now. It's a great venue, and onwards and upwards through the support and investment of the Saudi Arabians and Turkey.
Absolutely. You've done a bit of a catch up with Billy Did this week, haven't you?
Oh, that was amazing. The following day, we did about 10 interviews on the Monday, and then we went back to the Fighters Hotel on the Tuesday and did about another 10 interviews as well. And Billy was one of them. Obviously, he won the Comeback of the Year award. He beat cancer. He had very virulent colon cancer, and he beat it. He was the first to fight in Saudi Arabia as well, against Amir Khan. 8 years ago now. We had a great time with Billy,
Well, we're going to hear that. I think it's only fair that we hear it because it is a fantastic conversation. Do stick around. You are listening to Fight Night on talkSPORT. It's coming next. Now, as I just mentioned a moment or two ago, Gareth and Spencer caught up with former two-weight world champion Billy Did this week. Billy spoke in depth about his journey battling with cancer and how the boxing world came together to help him through.
So I was in the gym one day and feeling completely fine. Nothing was wrong with me, and we were just on the verge of announcing a fight with George Kambosos. Wow. I had just got off the phone with Lou DiBella, and he asked me if I was interested in fighting George, and I said yes, 100%. He told me what was on offer, and I agreed. So I got back in the gym, started getting to work, and then Billy Hussein, who was my trainer at the time, said, we're going to do some body sparring today. We don't usually do that, but we're going to do body sparring today. Look at how God does things. Like it was just unbelievable. And so I'm in the gym, and then one of my gym mates punches me with a left rip right in the colon area. And I felt this excruciating pain, not like a winded pain, but like he tore something in my stomach. And I sort of like continued, and then I finished, and I was like, I got to rush to the bathroom. I ran to the bathroom. I was in the bathroom for 30 minutes with no result. And then I come out, and I was like,
couldn't pass anything.
No, I couldn't pass.
But you felt like you needed to.
I felt like I was gonna make a mess of myself, but there was nothing happening.
Yeah.
So I headed home, and I just took some medication to try to ease the pain. And then the following morning, I was on my knees, and I went to the. I told my wife, I'm going to the hospital. I'm going to ring the ambulance to come get me.
You just knew.
Yeah, there was something wrong. And I went to the hospital, and then when I got there, the doctor was like, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with you." Anyway, I had a bit of a tantrum at the hospital. I was basically told the nurse that if she valued her life, she'd help me, because I was going to do something really seriously if you didn't help me, and I was in excruciating pain. Nevertheless, they gave me morphine, which masked the pain.
Yeah.
Then I went home, and then the next day, my brother Muhammad, who's here with me on this trip, he rang me to say, "What were you doing in the hospital yesterday?" I said, "Forget that. If you don't help me today, I'm going to die." And he goes, "What's going on?" I said, "There's something growing in my stomach, and I'm struggling to go to the bathroom, and I'm going to die. There's something wrong with me." And he said, "Stay on the phone." And he rang up a friend of his whose name was Dr. Pran, and he's a hematologist. And as soon as I spoke to Dr. Pran, I was like, "Dr. Pran, please do not hang up the phone on me." And he's like, "Listen, I'm not going to hang up, because if you're in pain, and I know you've got a tolerance for pain, there's something wrong." He goes, "Get in the car and go straight
oncology.
He goes straight to Norwest Private Hospital." And then we drove there. I was in a complete mess. When I got to the counter, they were like, I was like, "Hi, I'm Billy the Kid." And she's like, "Oh, nice to meet you. Can you fill out this form?" And I was like, No, I'm Billy the Kid. And Dr. Pran had told me, when you get there, tell him that you're my patient. I didn't say that because I was in so much pain. Anyway, I walked outside. I passed out. All these doctors ran out. I woke up in the ward, in the emergency ward, hours later. And doctor says, "Mate, Doc, what's wrong?" I said, "There's something growing in my stomach." And he's like, "What do you think it is?" I said, "Listen, I don't know, but do you think I might have cancer?" And he's like, "You're not showing the signs of a cancer patient." And I was like, "There's something in my stomach." Fast forward to the next day, they end up doing an endoscopy, colonoscopy. They woke me up and they said, "Do you want the good news or the bad news?" I said, "I'll take the bad news." He goes, "The bad news is we found cancer in your colon area." He says, "The good news is that we don't operate on Sundays, but because you're a call-in from a friend, we're going to operate." I said, "Well, thank you very much." And then we went ahead with the operation. So I was in the passed out. All these doctors ran out. I woke up in the ward, in the emergency ward, hours later. And doctor says, "Mate, Doc, what's wrong?" I said, "There's something growing in my stomach." And he's like, "What do you think it is?" I said, "Listen, I don't know, but do you think I might have cancer?" And he's like, "You're not showing the signs of a cancer patient." And I was like, "There's something in my stomach." Fast forward to the next day, they end up doing an endoscopy, colonoscopy. They woke me up and they said, "Do you want the good news or the bad news?" I said, "I'll take the bad news." He goes, "The bad news is we found cancer in your colon area." He says, "The good news is that we don't operate on Sundays, but because you're a call-in from a friend, we're going to operate." I said, "Well, thank you very much." And then we went ahead with the operation. And basically they said 2 days later, a doctor come in. His name was Abir Bhattacharyan, and he said, "Look, we're going to need to do some chemotherapy to clean up what's happened." And I said, "I'm not doing no chemo," because my wife, Sarah, had passed away from chemotherapy in 2015.
That's right.
So I was totally against it. And I told him I'm going to go home and I'm just going to look for some holistic things. He's like, "Look, you're cancer free now. And you just pray that it doesn't come back." So I went home. That was on a Friday. The following Friday was like hell on earth. I'd never experienced pain like that in my life. I'd never experienced the pain that I experienced that night. Was the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. They ended up rushing me back to the hospital because my wife rang the hematologist and he said, "Look, I'm so sorry, his bloods have come back and the cancer spread. And I was basically riddled with cancer, and they took me back. And I remember the night in hospital, I vomited over 50 times. In the end, there was nothing left, and I was just dry reaching and like vomiting blood specks into the bag. Then a doctor finally walked past me, and I actually put my hands up and said, God, if you've opened up a place for me in heaven right now, take me, because I can't take it anymore. Please, or send somebody to help me. This nurse walks past me, and I was like, sir, please, I'm asking, I'm begging you, can you help me? And he goes, I can help you, but you got to help yourself. I need you to allow me to put a tube down your throat. And he goes, I know you've told the doctors you don't want to do it, but you got to take it. And I was like, all right, I'll do it. So he came back 2 minutes later. He had 2 nurses with him. He said, I want you to hold on to her hand as tight as you can. And when I tell you to drink from her, you got to drink. He put this tube down my throat. I swear my fingers and my toes were curling from the pain. I ended up swallowing this tube. And I tell you, I've got through vomiting close to 50 times. And he put the tube in and he's like, I'm going to relieve you now. And I was like, I don't know how you're going to relieve me. There's nothing left in my system. He ended up pumping about a bucket like that out of my stomach. It was a full bucket of whatever was in my stomach. He pumped it out. And then he goes, I'm just going to put you to sleep. And he put me to sleep, and I finally woke up like hours later. I was obviously very relieved. And then the next day, they wheeled me to the ward, and then my mum was with me, and we're sitting down, and then the doctor walks in, and his name was Dr. B. Bhattacharya, and he asked me if I knew what I had, and I was like, look, I have no idea what's going on. And he said, look, I'm really sorry to tell you this, but you've got a life-ending cancer. He goes, you've got a cancer that spreads really, really fast. And he goes, and as I'm speaking to you right now, I think you're pretty much riddled.
So he told you it was terminal? Yeah,
he told me I was in a really bad way. And my mum, who, bless her, she was sitting behind me, she had just got through telling me there's nothing wrong with you. God would never hurt me. He wouldn't do this to me. And then I look back at her and she was in tears, and first thing I said to the doctor was like, look, I can't die. And he goes, why? I said, I've got a son who's 2.5 years old. I've got to walk him to school in a couple of years' time. And he goes, you just found your reason to fight.
How long did they give you to live at that point?
He told me that I'd be done he goes, look, tops, he goes, you'd be 6 months. What happened, I've got a mentor, his name's Sid David, and he's a mentor to me, and he's been mentoring me for a few years before I got sick, and then I didn't hear from him, and I was thinking, what's going on? Why is he not hitting me up? And I sent him a message saying, Sid, I'm not sure if you've heard, but I've been told that I'm going to die. And he said, listen, that's a great story you're telling me. He goes, but do yourself a favor and surrender yourself to God. Let him take you on that journey. And the minute that I surrendered myself, I was at peace. I was like, man, if I die, I'm going to meet God in the best of ways. And I'm going to intercede for my family who I didn't get to live with in earth, And he said to me, he said, when you find that peace of surrender, and he goes, you're going to heal. And I did, and I surrendered. And then, truth be told, on the day that I went to get the test done, to work out whether I was cancer-free or not, I remember waking up in the morning and saying to myself, if I'm not cancer-free today, I'm not doing no more chemotherapy, because I've never experienced pain like that in my life.
Can you tell us about how, obviously Spencer reacted, we were in touch, we did some podcasts and different things slightly later on, and I was trying to urge Nazim Hamid to come back and fight you, lose 5 stone or whatever it was, but how did the boxing world, people like Naz and Spencer, how did the boxing world react?
It was actually the boxing world that got me through, and truth be told, I messaged Naz and said to him, Naz, I'm in a really bad way and I'm going to die. And he's like, what are you talking about? He rung me right away and he's like, I'm getting on a plane, I'm coming to see you. I said, listen, I don't want you to see me in the state that I'm in. And he's like, Bilal, what are you talking about? And don't say that, and you're not going to die and all these things. And I'm not just, but it was the whole boxing world reached out. Like the whole boxing world was messaging me, you got to, I'm talking about Badu Jack, Andre Ward, Prince Nassim, like the who's who fighters was messaging me saying, you got this, champ.
Mate, what a phenomenal conversation. But Billy Dibb there, just in case you joined that halfway through, that was Billy Dibb speaking to Gareth and Spencer earlier on this week. And do you know something? Sometimes when you are in the presence of somebody, it is a blessing to just be around them as they speak and talk their story. I'm sure there's plenty of people that are going through very similar things that Billy's experienced over the last few years, and maybe find inspiration in the fight and the way that he was speaking about it. Then that is powerful stuff from him.
He talks about a lot of faith and resilience and prayer as well, and it's worth mentioning Mauricio Suleiman and the WBC that we talked about in that interview, that they did loads for him as well, and that people prayed for him, and it's an amazing story. I mean, there were a lot of hugs and a few tears shed at the end of that interview, believe me.
I can imagine. Phenomenal conversation with Billy Dibb. We're going to turn our attention towards the world of MMA, because tonight it's UFC 311. It was going to be Makhachev against Sarukian, but it's not now. It's Makhachev against Moicano. So we'll talk about that next.